Discussion and then a vote.
Madam Mayor, I assume I hope we'll spend a great deal of time discussing each of the sites as we move through this process and coming to a consensus on town council. But the first motion that I would like to make is that we reaffirm some of the tenets of the community letter that was sent in July, and I would like to make a motion that we reaffirm that the town hall of Montreat should be within the city limits of the town of Montreat.
Second.
Discussion on that motion? Those in...
I want to enter a couple of things with that. Part of that is to limit so that we know exactly what we are doing here today and as we move forward. As I would like to read for the record email which I read last night from Matt Settlemyer as part of the reasoning for that. And I'm reading it for the record and we'll enter it and give it to Misty. But Mary, as always, it was a pleasure seeing you last week. I know that the Montreat Town Hall location is still quite an issue for your board, but I did want to let you know what discussions people have had with me about it. While the town has no position on the site for your new town hall, I have advised folks who have called me, I don't recall the names, but I have had calls from 2 people, that Black Mountain is not inclined to de-annex any property currently in our town limits. As you are aware, de-annexation would require local legislation from Raleigh, and the Board of Aldermen are not supportive of that as a general principle. The Montreat Town Hall can, of course, be built in the town of Black Mountain if you all so choose, and we will answer any questions regarding zoning or building requirements, but we have never been supportive of de-annexing parcels of property. I appreciate all that you do for your community, and if I can ever be of assistance, please let me know. This is a matter of public record already since it's on the town email, but that is just to clarify that as a group that we are moving forward with the town hall site within the town limits.
Anyone else?
My preference is that the town hall be within the corporate limits of Montreat. However, I can't vote to exclude the piece of property outside the gate when I don't know anything about what it's going to cost to build on it, whether it's buildable. Until our architects look at it and give me a report, then I can't vote strictly inside the gate because I've not been given an opportunity or the information to be able to judge one piece of property against the next.
Ann?
Yeah. Excuse me. I wanted to share, I know I've talked with many of you about this, and I wanted to give this to Misty too to be sure it's in the minutes, but I'm not going to read it, folks. It's the study that was done by the Tennessee Valley Authority at the request of the Montreat Conference Center and the Black Mountain Town Council regarding flooding in the valley of Black Mountain in Montreat. It's not a solution to the problems, but it certainly is interesting to read, see what happened, and a way for both communities have looked at it to study future flooding issues and how those can be prevented. I think we have 2 sites tonight that did flood. The Pratt Park area we know flooded in 1916. For those of you who don't know, the founding fathers, as it was, of Montreat, this is after the Presbyterians flooded, I believe, in 1915 decided they needed a golf course in Montreat. So they built a golf course, a 9-hole golf course. And it took some time, but they finally found out where this golf course was located. And that was down in the Pratt Park Columbarium area. So they built it in 15 and opened it in April of 1916, and in July 1916 it got flooded and it was never built again. So, but I think this document is very helpful in understanding some of the water issues. Yes, I know we can build in floodplains. There are floodplains on and off in Montreat everywhere. But I think this helps us understand what all that involves and why there are so many restrictions and requirements by the building code within the state and within our community. So I think it's an important piece of information and a part of my decision-making in why I think that site is unsuitable.
Jack.
Go, Mr. Helms, Commissioner Helms. When the outside the gate property came up, if you will, they said they'd give us the information that would prove that they could save money going out there. $500,000 to $1 million. Well, I figured if they're going to give me $1 million, I'd get a free building, because that's all we're talking. So I think it's pretty simple. We want to be in our town limit. They didn't give us any information that said it was cheaper out there to build. And so I'm against it.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to repeat some things that I've said about why I think our town hall should be in our town. This is the single biggest investment this town may ever make. We pave roads, we drill wells and things like that. But this is our investment in our town for future generations, for the work that our very capable town staff do for us. There has not been an institutional building built in Montreat for a long time, so it's not like we're in a place that many of us have lived where there's always something being built by somebody for some institution. But that hasn't happened here, so it's a little harder to think about an institutional building. But I feel firmly that we should build for ourselves within the limits of our town. In addition to that, I think we're talking about, and some of the reasons for that have to do with, for instance, the prompt response of our staff to things that happen in our town, whether it's our town administrator, whether it's our zoning administrator who's checking real quick to see if something is going to be approved so that people can go on and get their hot water or their new roof or whatever, whether it's the police who work in and out of a building. I want this facility to be for our staff's use to provide for us in our town.
And just to address Commissioner Helms, also, we have looked at and considered this lot multiple times. I invite you to go back to the town website, look at the archived minutes, and look at the number of times we have looked at it. It clearly stated in one of the rainbow sheets that we received from the Montreater, the MNTHBL, the Outside the Great Lot Group, that's the Montreaters for a new town hall in a better location. One of the sheets said it was the only site that had been fully vetted. Mr. Burris came and gave us a presentation about that. We asked about cost. We asked about a number of things. And I have said to many of you, I will not in good conscience pay for Montreat tax dollars to pay for architects that we employ to evaluate the property. We certainly asked before Mr. Burris gave his presentation that those kind of numbers be given. Some of the energies that have been spent and some of the monies that have been spent could have certainly been spent by the group at that point in time. That's what we asked for. But they themselves, they said it had been fully vetted by their experts. That's what they said in their sheets. We've talked about the floodplain issues and the fact that it's documented to have flooded in 1949. I'd also like to take you back to 1983 and to a Black Mountain News article of September 1st, 1983. And this will be for the record. I will give this to Misty for all of you to be able to read. But the title on the front page is Montreat Residents and Montreat Anderson College Disagree. The question is, where should the Student Center be built? A number of residents objected to the Student Center being built near the college library. They hired attorneys. There were meetings. And one of the chief objections to that property by the residents, by the engineer that was hired by their lawyer, was the fact that there was an existing sewer line that is indicated on the proposed building site. Does that sound a bit familiar? There's an existing sewer line that runs through the outside the gate property. So strike one, it's in the town of Black Mountain, under the jurisdiction of Black Mountain if we build there. Strike two, it's in a floodplain, below a dam, in a floodway. And strike three, it's got a sewer line running through it. For all of those reasons, it has been looked at. It has been considered. I think it's time to move forward and start considering a site within the Montreat Town Hall. And I wish many of the energies and much of the angst that's gone into that had been spent not filling out a card and sending out a green sheet saying none of these work. Surely, if none of these locations work within the town of Montreat, there shouldn't be another house built within the town of Montreat either. Listen, I know people who want to build. I tell people to move here. I don't advocate the stopping of buildings, but this is no bigger or in the same size as some of the larger houses that we have in Montreat. So either, if you're objecting because we're building in the town of Montreat, are you objecting to your neighbors and your friends and your families building in the town of Montreat? We should consider putting it in the town of Montreat.
I also wanted to add, because I thought about this, I know several people have asked, well, you already looked at it once and you looked at other property outside the gate, so why don't you want to look at it now? I think it's important for all of us to remember when you are buying a house or you are buying property for a home or for a business, we all look at multiple properties. You start looking out with a list of things you think you need, and you start looking around and you find out that's not working. I think after looking at 23 different sites, maybe, I know it's more than 22, I've kind of lost count, I think we've gotten a sense of what we need. Are there going to have to be compromises in town? Yeah. Are there any ideal sites to build? No. I think we've all figured that one out. The architect's presentation showed us that. But we have to do what is best, what we feel is best for the town. Personally, I hesitate to put this off any longer. I think after 5 years, I think, what was it, the Black Mountain Park took 6 to 7 years. I know the town has been looking at least for 5 years at this. The community doesn't include just the residents and the people who come in here. It also includes our town staff. And I cannot imagine anybody in this room who has a business, who manages an office, or who has any input into any business would let their employees continue to work in a facility that our employees have been working in for these many years. Yes, we're going to have to make some compromises. Is everybody going to be happy? Probably not. But I think we owe it to our employees and our staff that we really do need to be able to provide good working conditions for them. They need to be healthy conditions and they need to be safe.
So a couple of you all have referred to the our study and reflection on the property outside the gate. And I want to say that, like Mary said, we have seen the materials, we have asked questions, we have, probably every one of us has gone out there and walked around that property numerous times. And after making my decision, having looked at all that information, talking with Mr. Burris and others, when I decided for myself that's not the property for our town hall, regardless of what town it's in, a couple of people suggested to me that if you know, like Commissioner Helms said, if we consider that one, what if you just consider it but you don't vote for it? And I really feel strongly that that's hypocritical of me to suggest such a thing. And I don't think that's an ethical way to behave or to make judgments as a person elected to represent the citizens. If you're willing to have an open mind and to really think about something, yes, then say, well, think about it. That's why I was willing to think about what Commissioner Helms suggested back in June, when he asked that people bring us some more suggestions. If you don't like what we have, come on down with more suggestions. And I do appreciate Mr. Neville, Mr. Frist, Mr. Cooper, others bringing the names of suggested places. And I appreciate Pete Peary and the conference center staff getting to work after our town administrator met with them and identifying the places that we would be considering from those that were suggested. But I really don't feel it's ethical for me to decide that I would agree to look at something when I know that I would be disapprove of that.
And we'll see how the discussions go. The issue that we're talking about at the moment is just about reaffirming the decision that it should be inside the gate. We have not made a decision or had a discussion on which of those sites would be. That's yet to come. But I would like to speak to some of the public comments about the delay, the not listening, not considering. We are citizen servants. I am not an engineer. I am not an architect. But I come, and each of us comes from a different background. That's what we do as a collective body. That's what we were elected to do. That is our duty to ourselves and to our community. Many of us here are Presbyterians. I've always been told that if you go to General Assembly, your job is to vote your conscience. Whatever decision I end up making today will be voting my conscience. And I would also like to share with you, I do think Montreat has long history and long memories, and Presbyterians like nothing better than to form a committee. It's what we do really well. But I was struck, and again, I want to share with you some of the history of Montreat. Back in 1982 again, there was another Black Mountain News article dated March 4th. It talks about the Montreat water system transfer. And it says, negotiations began 19 years ago, were culminated Monday when the Montreat water sewer system was passed from the Mountain Retreat Association to the town of Montreat for $100,000. Now, I hope to be here in 19 years, but I'm not real sure. But I do think this is something that's been studied for 5 and 6 years. Town meetings have been open, town websites have been available, postcards have been sent. It has been studied for a long time. And again, I'm not an architect. I'm not a building science engineer, but I am voting my conscience and I have studied it, and I think that's all I hope you expect of me.
Anyone else?
Maybe all the questions.
All right, you're voting to reaffirm that the town hall will be inside the Montreat gate. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Tim Helvins votes no.
I'm voting no simply because I would like to have the opportunity to at least consider the piece outside the gate, and I've not had that opportunity.
Okay, let's look at each one of these properties before you make your decision. The property on the hill just inside the gate, we'll start there.
On my notes. Some discussion on that.
And I actually, before we begin, I have a generic question.
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
But it's of Ron, so. We're trying to let him happen.
Oh, good.
But I would like, before we begin the discussion of the sites, one of the things that I'd like to know is at several points during the past few months, there were statements made both in public and in private that if we were to choose an alternative site other than Florida Terrace, that there would be individuals who would be willing to purchase the Florida Terrace site from the town. And as we go into these discussions, I would like to know if the mayor or the town administrator have received any sort of direct inquiries from that group. And I know when Commissioner Vinson and I met with two of the leadership portions of the group, we asked specifically if we stayed within the town, was that offer still good? And I got no response at that point in time, and am wondering if there was a follow-up with either of you.